this FBI thing, in order to push that, we've got to go against the intelligence community. That doesn't go well. JFK, JFK. I've covered how spectacularly Russiagate has collapsed. It continues to collapse every day. Like, even when you think there's nothing left, you're like, there's nothing but shreds left in this thing. Somehow, there's more to collapse. There's more to fall apart, even after that. So the Durham report came out. Now, many people are saying, oh, well, Durham was picked by Trump, therefore it's all bullshit. But obviously, he put out a several hundred-page report on this, and much of it has sourcing, endless testimony from witnesses. So it doesn't really matter who selected him. There is loads of evidence that he brought forward. Now, I know that many Trump supporters, which I am not, in case you need a reminder of that, Trump is a racist, megalomaniacal corporate shill, but so is Biden. So there you go. He gets to choose between those two. But many who were Trump supporters were upset that the Durham report did not say, like, and Hillary Clinton should be arrested or whatever. So that's what we're going to get to some of that in a second. But I wanted to show you, I want to just remind you how hilarious the coverage was in the midst of Russiagate. So I thought I'd just show you one short clip of how spectacularly stupid this coverage was in the peak of Russiagate. And these people, these reporters, have not apologized, have not said, wow, we got it wrong, have not apologized to me, have not unshadow banned my stuff, or Chris Hedges, or Jesse Ventura, or any of those who have been attacked, alienated, sidelined, had our videos deleted, banned globally. There are no sorries. There are no apologies. They just go on their way. And in fact, all of these articles and all of these videos, well, most of them, I suppose some have been deleted. Most of them have been that justified Russiagate, said it was real, acted like it was real, acted like Russia manipulated our election. They rigged the election. All of those things still up online. They still act like those should be up there and we should keep talking about them and pretending they're real. So anyway, here is one short clip from Rachel Maddow, the beloved Rachel Maddow, who just, what a charming, truthful human being.
Embassy, quote, was withdrawn from Washington on short.
Okay, so I forgot I should give you a little bit of background real quick. She's talking about a Russian diplomat. She begins the thing by talking about the acting like the Russian embassy is some kind of dastardly building, horrifying. But, and then so she references the Steele dossier. The Steele dossier, many of you know, completely debunked. It was utterly false. It not a shred of truth in it. It is basically this guy Steele, Christopher Steele, was paid by the Democrats to make up a dossier that acted like Trump was a Russian agent. And so he did. He was like, hey, you got to give me the money? Here you go. So he made up all this shit. And here's Rachel Maddow covering it as if it's real. And let's recall that many of us, not just myself, there were hundreds, and many of us who were not right-wing knew this was bullshit back then as well. Or at the very least, were highly skeptical. So here she is discussing that.
Short notice, because Moscow feared his heavy involvement in the U.S. election operation, including the so-called veterans pensions ruse reported previously. His heavy involvement in the U.S. election operation would be exposed in the media. So
real quick, you'll notice what she's doing is she's The Steele dossier claims that this Russian diplomat no one's ever heard of was withdrawn from the U.S. because he was linked to the Russian election campaign, the Russian rigging of the elections, which she is acting like is completely true. Russia rigged our elections, right? She's pretending it's a real thing. It's not. It's all been debunked. It's all collapsed. The DNC wouldn't even show the servers to the FBI because they knew it wasn't a hack. And yet, here's Rachel Maddow pretending it's all true, right?
This senior Russian diplomat working at the Russian embassy, he gets taken out of the embassy. He gets withdrawn from the embassy in Washington. He gets recalled to Moscow, allegedly on account of him being exposable, him potentially being exposed for his role in the Russian operation against our presidential election. Okay, now that reference to the pension ruse reported previously, that's a reference to the alleged means by which the Russian government paid for this operation.
This is where it gets really good. She starts to talk about how Russia paid for the operation to rig our election, which was not real, and she made up, and they made up, and the media made up, and the Clinton machine made up. And she's talking about how did they pay for the thing we all made up? Great question, Rachel. How did the Russians pay for the thing you made up in your fairy tales? How did they pay for that?
Right? That did actually have to pay for it, right? It's about the way they got cash to pay hackers and other operatives to do the grunt labor of this Russian election attack. I mean, what we know of the Russian attack on our election, Russian efforts to try to elect Donald Trump president, it did not seem to be a super labor-intensive process. It wasn't like an industrial process, but you do need people to do the work. You do need, for example, people building and running the online bots and repeaters, right? That were, giving ginned up fake viral status to negative news and about Hillary Clinton and
She's talking about how they needed staff to do the thing that never existed. We also now know, it's been proven with the Twitter files, that the Twitter bot thing that Rachel and these other folks created did not exist. And yet, and I think some people, especially liberals, now say, oh, well, they didn't know at the time. Rachel thought this stuff did exist. But here's the thing. I was watching all the same news that Rachel Maddow was, and I knew it didn't exist. Many people did. Many people knew this was bullshit even then. Or at the minimum, they thought, well, it could be true. I'd have to see proof, which was exactly what I thought. Like, show me some fucking real proof, and then I'll go with you. I'll go with you on this thing. And just show me some proof. But they had none. They had nothing. They had this pretend Steele dossier, all this garbage, and they just kept spitting it out. And you kept sitting there going, do they have anything? Do they have anything? Do they have anything? I mean, I was covering it at the time and it saying, look, show us what it, I mean, even Facebook said, because one of the big things was the Facebook ads, right? Russia bought Facebook ads. Even Facebook said that 56% of those ads bought by this Russian clickbait farm appeared after the election. Well, boy, that does not sound like a very effective election rigging campaign. To spend 56% of your money after the election. That sounds like a really bad election rigging campaign. And that was available within a week of when they announced Facebook ads bullshit. Because the head of advertising at Facebook put that statement out within days. And of the whatever was left, 44%, I think, with the maths, of the 44% that did appear before the election, the average spent was $3 on those ads. Like each ad, $3. Now, anyone who knows anything about Facebook advertising, $3 gets you roughly one view by one guy who's looking the other direction. $3 gets you nothing. Like, Facebook will often try and get me to pay for things. They'll be like, hey, send us $400 and this thing could be seen by 100 more people. Or what you have to spend thousands of dollars to have a big impact on Facebook. And here they were being like, $3 an ad. I'm sure that'll do it. That'll rig the election. I mean, it's just...
And positive news about Donald Trump, right? So, I mean, you do actually have to involve some people, and you probably do have to pay some folks. So the allegation here from the dossier was that this guy working in a very senior position at the Russian embassy, he was basically the paymaster for this operation. And the allegation from the dossier is that he was withdrawn from the embassy, withdrawn from the Russian embassy in Washington, sent back to Moscow on short notice because the Russians were worried that he was going to be exposed.
I mean, the other thing is, this is the definition of a conspiracy theory, right? She's like, it's conspiring and swirling around, and it involves this guy and that guy. And this is the definition of a conspiracy theory. Yet, then she calls any of us who called her out conspiracy theorists. Max Blumenthal the other day confronted her at an event. It's not a great clip. He didn't get to speak long before security rushed him out. So otherwise I would have played it. But he basically just says, "You never apologized for the Steele dossier." And she's on stage. She just goes, "What?" And then he gets dragged out and they go, and she then says, "Coming soon to a Substack near you." And the crowd laughs. You see, she's saying that guy's not a legit journalist and she's a legit journalist. Well, that's funny because he was asking you to apologize for the blatant lies you've told for years about this garbage. Okay, let's get to Seymour Hersh's article about this, about Russiagate. Russiagate's missing pieces, a moment in Durham's report where he hints at the real story. Russiagate was a fraud initiated by the Clinton campaign and abetted by political reporters in Washington and senior FBI officials who chose to look the other way. Durham writes, in late 2016, July 2016, U.S. intelligence agencies obtained insight into Russian intelligence analysis, alleging that U.S. presidential candidate Hillary Clinton had approved a campaign plan to stir up a scandal against U.S. presidential candidate Donald Trump by tying him to Putin and the Russians' hacking of the DNC. Do you follow that? Like, they have plenty of evidence showing that the Clinton campaign, the Clinton machine, Hillary Clinton herself, came up with this idea to tie Donald Trump to Russia, like made it up out of whole cloth and just said, this is what we'll do. We need to pin this election loss on someone. It'll be easy to pin it on Russia because everyone already hates Russia. We've already got a lot of propaganda against Russia. So we'll blame it on Russia. And I always have to remind people that actually for a few days after the election, after Hillary's loss, when the whole nation was like, what the fuck just happened? Even people that supported Trump were like, what the hell just happened? For those few days, right after the election, they actually didn't blame it on Russia. Do you remember this? They blamed it on the FBI. They blamed it on the FBI for reopening the case against Hillary Clinton. It was blamed on James Comey and the FBI. But then the Clinton campaign realized, this FBI thing, in order to push that, we've got to go against the intelligence community. That doesn't go well. JFK. So let's pin it on someone that all of America will believe is dastardly and rigged this thing. Forget the FBI. Let's pin it on Russia. And so it switched, and all of a sudden, James Comey became a hero of the liberals. Remember that? To continue from the Durham report, this intelligence, taken at face value, was arguably highly relevant. And, this is someone else, Schmidt, actually saying this about the Durham report, was highly relevant and exculpatory because it could be read in a fuller context and in combination with other facts to suggest that materials such as the Steele dossier reports and the Alpha Bank allegations. Another thing Rachel Maddow pushed all over the place was that Alpha Bank revealed some connection between Russia and Donald Trump, and Russia had funded Trump and all this bullshit. Were part of a political effort to smear a political opponent and to use the resources of the federal government's law enforcement and intelligence agencies in support of political objective. Durham goes on to cite instances of public statements. He finds evidence to suggest that, quote, at least some of the officials within the campaign were seeking information about the FBI's response to the DNC hack, which would be consistent with and a means of furthering the purported plan. Some in the campaign were trying to push the FBI to say that Russia was the source of the hack. We now know it was not a hack. It was a leak from the inside. You are welcome to surmise as to who that leak from the inside was. But either way, it was not a hack by a foreign government. It was a leak. He adds that the campaign's funding of the Steele reports and the and the Alpha Bank allegations provide some additional support for the credibility of the information set forth in the Clinton plan intelligence. It became evident to some members of Durham's staff that the real story was not about whether or not Trump had pee parties in a Moscow hotel room. That was one of the things in the Steele dossier, one of the headline-producing allegations in the Steele dossier that consumed the Washington press corps in the aftermath of Trump's victory. The issue was whether the Clinton campaign, in its constant leaking of false accusations and false data, had crossed a line. You think? Some senior FBI officials had openly joined ranks with the Clinton campaign, with its drumbeat of spurious allegations, because in some cases of a shared belief in the importance of a Clinton victory in the fall election. As Durham himself writes, any attempted prosecution premised on the Clinton plan intelligence would face what in all likelihood would be insurmountable classification issues given the highly sensitive nature of the information itself. The issue with Durham may be that he was the wrong man in what could never be the right job. He had made his reputation with the help of others in the FBI and Justice Department. So basically, he was not going to turn against the FBI and the Justice Department. And so while he did reveal that the Clinton campaign came up with this plan to blame Russia, he didn't dig deeper. He didn't say any of them should be prosecuted. He didn't even say there should be any changes to the FBI, which is kind of unbelievable. You have this mass FBI investigation that he in his report says was unfounded. No changes needed. No changes necessary. Totally amazing.